Hello there everyone and welcome back to Russia in Context. Today we're going to continue walking through my neighborhood here on Leninskiy Prospekt while I attempt to fill you in on all of the events of the last 2 months. It's a very large task, so let's continue.
Yep.
Okay, so last time we left off, if you don't remember, we had Lenin and Nadezhda. But yeah, if you didn't watch the first video, you can go back and do that. I'll put that little link up there in the corner. But for now, we're just going to keep walking down Leninskiy. Now, I'm going to cross the street here. It's worth noting that I mentioned how Leninskiy is this massive thoroughfare in the city. And you can see that. But one of the nice things, and this is really good, I'm assuming in other cities they do this too, the roads are all doubled. So the actual main part of Leninskiy is for like the through traffic, right? That area in the center is all, I mean, there are stoplights, obviously. In fact, there's a stoplight right up there, but realistically, you're on that part in the middle if you just need to go far. If you need to get into some of the houses or stop at the buildings and park, they have this small double, is what it's called, doubleur, that is for not through traffic. So it does help a little bit with the ebb and flow of cars. Yeah, see back there. Let's go in here, take a look. Let's go take a look at kind of a courtyard. So this is this right here is classic. You find this all throughout Moscow, you find this all throughout Russia. Well, maybe not all throughout Russia, but like this massive, right? We've got, I'm assuming 9 floors. It's typically 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or no, 9, it's 9, okay. But then yeah, right here in the middle, right? You can see how far the building goes. It's basically a square. It's basically this big square. And then here in the middle, you can see the entrances are right here. There's usually a bench or some place to sit outside. And then in the middle, you have a playground. You have a box, as they call them, where you can do sport, right? I'll move over there here. We have some bushes planted. I'm not breaking anything. Okay, so yeah, right? You have this very green area where if you live here, you come outside and I'm gonna stop talking. Just listen for a second. Nothing. That super loud Leninskiy Prospekt that we just came from, all that noise is blocked off. These buildings they isolate the courtyard here from all of that outside noise. And so you have this sort of little quiet green private oasis. And this is basically what most of the area on and off of Leninskiy Prospekt is like. Yeah, again, a sports box. This would be in the winter also flooded with ice so that you could play hockey, but in the summer they have basketball hoops and some soccer nets. But yeah, we'll go back. Yeah. While we're walking, before we get back out to Leninskiy, I want to continue talking about some, I guess they're not really current events right now, so we'll call them not so current events, haha. But yeah, it's worth noting that in about a week, it will be 2 months since Prigozhin led his little parade on Moscow, and it's just like forgotten. It just disappeared. Part of that has to do with the fact that after it all happened, the government did its best to just remove it from the news. All mentions of Prigozhin were basically just erased. They did their best to discredit him and make him look not very successful and not very important. The government tried to distance themselves from him, which was kind of funny because then about a week after that, news leaked that he had actually been in the Kremlin and he had met with Putin. So it was just a mess of messaging, and people are still kind of upset about everything because realistically, according to the law and everything, Prigozhin should at the very least be in prison. Instead, he was let go, and now he's, I guess, in Belarus, or maybe Africa, or maybe St. Petersburg. It kind of depends on his mood because he's not exiled from Russia. And even a lot of people who are very pro-military conflict are, well, conflicted about the Prigozhin situation. So, but yeah, people have kind of forgotten about it, I guess, but it's kind of just because they've erased all mention of him. They just erased everything connected to him, and I don't know, we'll see what happens. I'm assuming that, like a lot of things here, people will just move on. They already have for the most part. But yeah, that was, yeah, see how loud it is out here compared to that courtyard that we were just in? And think about it, that courtyard is just on the other side, basically, of a building like this. It blocks out so much sound. Now, obviously, if you live in one of these apartments with the windows open, yeah, it's not so great. But wait, where's the? Oh yeah, there he is. The Italianski tradizioni, sirna lavka, Italian traditions right here. Good cheese, very good cheese. I don't know anybody who is in Moscow sees this. Check this place out. We come here and get cheese, and it's good. It's made here in the city, obviously, but yeah, after the Prigozhin thing, it was not without its consequences. So one of the things that happened after that was a number of other military top brass went missing, and the first one, the kind of the biggest one that everybody latched onto, was Surovikin. Surovikin literally the next day just disappeared, and I'll be completely honest, nobody has seen him since still. For a long time they said he was on vacation. First they said he was fishing in Baikal, then they said he was in Rostov vacationing, and I mean, that seems like clearly lies, but sure, whatever. And yeah, he wasn't the only one though. Still, nobody's really sure what happened to him, or, you know, where he still is. But basically, after Prigozhin, the Kremlin, I guess, cleaned house. They removed anybody who they thought might be disloyal, and I guess Surovikin was among that group. But that said, some other people who were maybe less deserving also got removed. Here, I want to stop. I mentioned this last time. You can see the construction of this new metro station underway here. But yeah, no, another military guy who got removed was Popov. This was, I guess, like a really respected and kind of high-ranking official, and he wrote a message about how he disagreed with how the Russian military was doing stuff, and he got yeeted out of office. Granted, the message was not designed for anybody. It just got leaked, but it didn't matter. He was out. So there's been there's like a no tolerance policy right now. But yeah, and then beyond that, it went just beyond the military top brass. So Telegram, which is the wildly popular messaging system here in Russia. In fact, right now it is as popular as the Russian version of Facebook, Vkontakte, and as popular as YouTube, right? Like Telegram, YouTube, and Vkontakte are all the top internet sites here in Russia. Vkontakte, like I said, is like Facebook, it's all entertainment. YouTube, obviously, is YouTube. And Telegram, people use it for messaging. Oh, yes, we all love motorcycles, don't we? People use Telegram for messaging, but for the most part, Telegram is used for getting news. It's basically, it's kind of like Twitter, but you can't really respond most of the time, and you can write a lot more. Anyway, after the whole Prigozhin thing, not long after it, some admins of a Telegram channel that kind of leaked, quote unquote, I guess, secret information of people connected to the Kremlin. The admin got arrested and sent away. He's currently, I guess, detained. And anyway, it doesn't matter. So they arrested one person who, I guess, was maybe sharing information or telling stuff that they didn't really like. And then one of the most, we'll say, pro-war type of guys, Strelkov, Girkin is another name of his that you might know. He's connected to kind of starting the whole conflict in the Donbass, and he was very much on support with everything the Kremlin was doing. In fact, he thought that the Kremlin wasn't doing enough, and he was very vocal about that. He wanted them to do more. And I think what ended up happening was he started this. Okay, yeah, it's quitting time. So he started this group called the Group of Frustrated or Angry Patriots, and yeah, they got rid of him. And then there's another guy. I have to check out his name because I can never remember it, because it's a guy who nobody had really heard of before. But what's his name? Gagarlitsky. Gagarlitsky was also arrested. He for like random comments that he found, or that was found on his Telegram channel. So a lot of people were worried that the crackdown was going to afflict everyone, but I'm pretty sure it was just more connected to people who maybe you could consider politically active, or who might somehow be connected to politics. Strelkov kind of had like this pseudo-political party forming. Gagarlitsky also had like a discussion group connected to politics. So yeah, they were arrested. A lot of people, but yes, after Prigozhin, the Kremlin just sort of cleaned house. But right now we're on Улица Строителей, which is like Constructors Street, I guess. And we are coming up to, well, one of the other points of interest in this area. So we're gonna cross the street here because it is right over there. And it doesn't look like much, but we're gonna get up there closer and then you'll see what I'm talking about. So let's just cross the street here. Okay, so these buildings, and I realize that they are kind of washed out in the image by the sun, but these are Krasny Dama, or the red buildings. So very original with the titles. But why are we talking about these buildings? Well, it's not just because they're red, like that's in and of itself not inherently interesting. But this is, I guess, was kind of experimental. We're gonna get up to them closer and I'll tell you a little bit more. Let's talk about one of the first things that maybe grabs our attention. And it's not these delicious looking melons, although they are delicious. I just ate one like yesterday. We basically destroyed it. No, it's these spaces right here, which you can kind of see. You see how they're open? In fact, we haven't even a car here for scale. In the Soviet Union, you didn't really see garages ever because most people didn't have cars. But this this set of buildings, the Krasny Dama, they had garages here in front of them, right? And you can see like this whole white, it's supposed to be white. They kind of messed up the coloring a few years back, and it looks like they are attempting to return the white tone to it. But this white expanse here in front of the building, this is all basically a garage area. Now, when they built this, and again, these buildings, just like the buildings around them, were all built in the post-war Stalin era. So this was when Moscow was rebuilding after World War II, and they needed to get everything kind of put together. So why did they build these garages here? Well, the thing is, the plan was originally to have the auto industry develop here a little bit faster. And obviously that didn't pan out for various reasons, but what makes Krasny Dama here, and we're gonna get up here closer in just a second, what makes them so interesting is that they were supposed to be a new model for how architecture and residential areas in the Soviet Union were going to develop. And the reason that they chose this part of the city is because I mentioned it in the last video, this area started to really develop after World War II. After they built Moscow State University, the city began to expand in this direction. And as it expanded, obviously this was where they built the houses. So they started building houses out this way. We can actually take a look in here. We're just gonna stick our heads in for just a second, and we can see how low the ceilings are, right? Very low ceilings, very old. Obviously this was built for different types of cars. I would assume that nowadays with a lot of the larger vehicles, it's a bit of a tight squeeze, but yeah. So with the red homes, like I said, this was supposed to be a new model of how Soviet residential buildings were going to be. And I guess they have some businesses down here too. I did not realize that. DIY cafe. Interesting. Okay, so we're gonna go up here. Obviously. Yeah. So I think now the red color is maybe a little bit more obvious, and the or maybe I was no. Okay, I was mistaken when I said that they were bringing the white color back. That was my bad. It was originally this sort of dark red color, and they painted over it white a few years back. The arches were always white, the red part not so much. And I guess the washed out color of the building isn't necessarily my camera. It's just they also need to repaint the building. Down here where it's shaded, and over here on the sides we can see how much darker the red color is. But we're gonna anyway. So the red buildings here, right, Krasny Dama, the idea was that this style of architecture was going to be in every single new region, and the red color was just a random color that they chose. They could have gone green, they could have gone blue. And in fact, the idea was that as they built new regions of the city, each part of the city would have its own color. So this part of the city here between Vernadskoye and Leninskiy Prospekt would have had red buildings. And then you move a little bit further to the east to the Akademический region. Maybe they would have had green buildings, and you move to another part, maybe they would have had blue buildings. So the idea was that each part of the city would be readily identifiable, kind of by the color of the buildings. Now, that didn't happen, and let's talk about why that didn't happen. We're gonna move in here closer to this arc, because I feel like it's a pretty good way. But actually, even from the top of the building, you can see these ornamental, decorative, I think cornice. I'm not an architecture guy, I think that's what it's called. But the supports holding up the overhang of the roof, and then you can see even some parts right there, that little white strip that has a lot of detail sort of pressed into it. And we're gonna come down here to the arc, because you can see it even better. So, oh, actually, not even to the arc. We can go even closer. We have a shop window here. We can get up real close to it. So, let's take a look. So yeah, we get here, and we can see. Look at all this detail here. Look at, we have pine cones and pine needles. On the other buildings, there are other plant motifs. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's this very kind of natural imagery here. Now, and actually, if you look at the balconies too, you can see the railings around the balconies. This sort of decorative bent metal. Oh, I believe I'm not gonna be able to really. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah, I can. You can see right there the detail. I'm having a hard time making it out, but it is probably. Oh wait, what would it be? Oak. I think acorns. There's acorns up there. It's also tree related. But so, why did this style of architecture, the red houses, why did it not catch on? Why didn't it spread? Well, what ended up happening was Stalin died. And Stalinist architecture is very bombastic, right? You only have to go look as far as, let's go take a look at the courtyard. You only have to look as far as Moscow State University, right? With the spires and this really sort of neo-Gothic, just, actually just classical. It's a mess of styles. And Stalinist architecture was attempting to build this very, beautiful? I don't know what the term. Oh yeah, here we got a really nice look of these things surrounding the window. Again, I'll try to zoom in so we can take a look. But yeah, so Stalin was all about this sort of decorative aspect of making architecture look amazing, look beautiful. And then he died. And after Stalin died, well, things changed a little bit. One of the things that happened was, God damn it, my mind is blank. Anyway, the next Khrushchev, it's really kind of embarrassing. I'm pretty sure Khrushchev, he came along and wanted to get rid of all of this. Wait, was it Khrushchev? God damn it, I don't know. Anyway, not important. After Stalin died, the architecture in the Soviet Union, they wanted to get rid of what was known as izlishество, which was basically extravagance. So buildings focused more on functionality and simplicity than beauty and design. So the reason that the red buildings didn't catch on as a design style in the Soviet Union was simply because, well, they didn't get the chance. Times changed, and so we ended up getting Khrushchev, I'm pretty sure, because we started to get the short 5-story buildings made of brick, Khrushchevki, and the panel buildings, really kind of ugly architecture. Now, obviously, if you live here in the former Soviet Union long enough, you kind of come to appreciate those buildings. They're slowly being demolished and replaced by modern steel and glass, just sort of monstrosities, which are ugly in their own regard. So, like Khrushchevki, these old, runty 5-story buildings, while they might not be beautiful, I think the historical context has sort of saved their reputation a little bit. They're still ugly as sin, don't get me wrong, but, you know. So yeah, the Krasny Dama, which we're walking past, yeah, there's a restaurant here. Never been in there. I don't know, it looks kind of skeezy, but this has been here forever. Never actually even stopped to bother to look at the name. I can't. Andiamo, I don't know. Yeah, there it is in English. Fantastic. So yeah, but yes, this is a lot of people just don't pay any attention to it. They know the red buildings are here, but they don't really know anything more about them than that. But it's kind of an interesting history. And on the opposite side of the Krasny Dama, we actually see another thing worth pointing out. Right, that is we have this really basic looking building, right? But between some of the windows, you'll notice red bricks all of a sudden. They don't maybe looking as good as some of the other ones, but why is that the case? Well, when they were building this area, one of the things that the constructors were thinking to do was, again, try to give buildings a sense of identity, and they didn't have a lot of materials to do that with. And one of the only things that they had available were just, different colored bricks. So you can actually see it on this building back here. It's a little harder, but yeah, you can kind of see it right there. So yeah, these different color bricks and the, I guess, patterns that they put with them, it was an attempt also to give this part of the city its own sense of identity. And again, remember, this was before Stalin died. And this was when such extravagance, imagine this sort of alternating color of bricks. Imagine that being considered extravagance. It kind of was, though. But yeah, this was here to, maybe complement the red buildings and give this neighborhood a sense of identity here on Leninskiy Prospekt. So, now, who would have lived? Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is what we want, right? Look at the detail here. There it is. Wow. Yeah, that's nice. So, okay. All right, so now that I'm done geeking out over the architectural elements here, let's raise that. Wow, that reflection's bright. Let's raise that question again. Who in the Soviet Union in the Stalin era would have been able to live in such a new and experimental building with its own garages? Who would have had the opportunity to live here? So going back to the question at hand, in the 1950s, in Stalinist Soviet Union, who would have had the opportunity to live in such a brand new, beautiful building with its own garage? Although they probably didn't have cars, but it doesn't matter, they had garages. Well, if we think about this area and what is here, we remember that Moscow State University is over that direction. Well, that kind of screws with the camera. I will not do that in the future. I'll try not to. So, yeah, the people who would have been here would have been professors or people connected to the university. Not everybody, obviously. It's a very large building. You can't see it right now. These chestnut trees are blocking the way. But it's a very large building, and but yeah, still a lot of people connected to the university would have lived here. There is another building specifically for professors on Lomonosov Street, or Lomonosov Prospekt. We're going to go there at some point soon in the future when I continue to walk and talk. But yeah, so in this area would have been all of the people kind of connected to the university because of proximity, in the same way that on the other side of the university, on Mosfilmovskaya Ulitsa, which is where the movie studio Mosfilm is located, would have been most of the creative people connected to making films and things of that nature. And on the opposite side, in that direction over there, we have the area Akademicheskaya, which is the academic part of the city. And that is the part of the city where most of the sort of scientific people would have been living. I'm not entirely sure what the giant ball is up here. I've often wondered about that, but I don't know. Anyway, yes, so the scientific people would have been located there. So this region, not only was it sort of prestigious because it was new and built up in that period of time, but this part of the city still remains prestigious for that legacy, right? This was the part of the city where the professors, the academics, the scientists, the creative people, this is the part of the city that they lived in. So if you lived in this part of the city, well, you were not necessarily the elite, but you definitely were not just some regular factory worker. You had you had a nice position in the pecking order, we'll put it like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and cross over to the shady side of the street and just wait. I'm gonna hurry across here. Looks like somebody completely devoured a watermelon, so wasps are covering it. Take one last look at the red buildings, which look really orange in this video, but trust me, they're not that orange. I don't know. And yeah, we are kind of just walking now. But you know what? I think this is actually, oh, and we have another example of that Stalinist architecture where some extra designs, unnecessary, extravagant designs are there. But I think for today, we're gonna wrap it up. I've already been rattling on a lot. I kind of geeked out pretty hard about that building back there. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm actually gonna try to push out a few more of these in the coming days as well. Just walking around this neighborhood, sharing more kind of information, as well as recapping news that is kind of outdated already, but still important stuff from the last 2 months that you might not have heard about. So yeah, anyway, this has been Russia in Context. Thanks for watching.